Here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego, and welcome into another edition of the Braden Surprenant Show. We are live at the Loft in the third level of the Western Metal Supply Company building. It's great to be with all of you as we get you ready for Padres baseball coming up at 1:10. Equal SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt will be on at 12:10 as the Padres will try to win this series against the Washington Nationals and hopefully finish the homestand with 2 series wins against the Kansas City Royals and then Washington. We were getting down to the nitty-gritty of the first half before we get to the ceremonial first half. And if I heard correctly last night on the broadcast, I think the first game in Cincinnati is game 81, if I'm not mistaken. So
I believe so.
I'll have to double-check that, but I think Frank is on it with that. So we are going to be halfway through the season at the conclusion of Friday's game against Cincinnati. Where is this team at? I mean, we probably could talk a little bit about this tomorrow. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this on Friday as we lead you into the series with Cincinnati. I'm sure the roundtable tomorrow will give their first half assessment of the San Diego Padres team. But as of right now, and I keep trying to, and I stay in the middle. A lot of people think that I'm just defending the Padres all the time. I try to give perspective. And to be honest with you, with perspective, and I'm not going to roll back anything I said about Dave Roberts last week, but with perspective and just understanding the other side, I went back and watched those John Boy videos of the entire cluster that was the Padres-Dodgers series from last week. There's a couple of things that Dave said. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I ask the question this all the time. Every time I see a John Boy video or that famous video with Terry Collins. Hey, Terry. We're in our ass is in the jackpot, Terry. That video. I go, why doesn't Major League Baseball like their guys being mic'd up? I mean, the NFL's, I love watching mic'd up videos all the time with the National Football League. I don't even have an NFL team to watch anymore. And like Hard Knocks and all the behind-the-scenes stuff with players mic'd up and officials mic'd up and everything like that, you get a different perspective. I mean, I'm watching the game last week, Padres-Dodgers, and I'm like, Dave's got the red ass, this, that, what is he complaining about? And then you see what he says. And again, it's a little bit of lip reading, so it's not 100% accurate. And even though I still disagree with what Dave Roberts did last week, the entire time I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, I can see what he's saying here. This makes a little bit more sense. It didn't seem as bad. Mike Schilt was yelling at him. He's like, I'll see you after. Okay. They could discuss about everything. He immediately started saying, I didn't want to see Fernando get hit. So again, I'm not defending Dave Roberts, but I understand the perspective. So that being said, like we talked about yesterday, whether or not I would rather have the Padres have these prospects that are now Washington Nationals or Juan Soto for the trip to the 2022 NLCS, even though I lean more to the Soto thing, there's perspective on both sides. I think you have to understand the other side's perspective sometimes. And playing devil's advocate is a dangerous game. But at the same time, you look at it and think about how ridiculous today would have been. I would consider myself, I would think this is windsock level. But if I started today's show and just went, the Padres won the Soto trade because they struck out James Wood to end the game yesterday in a victory, that sounds ludicrous. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound? In a game in June against the Washington Nationals, a team in which, aside from last year where you swept the Nationals, haven't been able to beat at home in a long period of time, the night before, everybody was like, Padres lost the Soto trade. Why? Because James Wood and C.J. Abrams had, big nights for the Washington Nationals. Last night, the Padres really kept them at bay, and all of a sudden it's like, you're not going to hear me say, oh, you know what? The Washington Nationals lost the Soto trade. Every single minute thing about this series is not going to be who won or lost the Juan Soto trade. Now, I do think there are some accounts on social media that do it as a trolling bit, and it is kind of funny. But a lot of people on social media don't understand. Sometimes it is kind of a joke. But we'll see what happens today. I mean, again, today, Washington can win, with Mackenzie Gore in the Hill, and all of a sudden it goes back to Washington won the Juan Soto trade. If the Padres shell Mackenzie Gore today, do they win the Juan Soto trade? No, it doesn't make any sense. Your head-to-head matchup against Washington is never going to determine whether or not you won or lost a trade. That's ridiculous. As of right now, I would say the Padres, riding the momentum of 2022, have won the first chunk of the Juan Soto trade, which is their window to win. I think AJ Cassavell said that perfectly yesterday. It's all about your window to win. And Juan Soto, during this window, helps the Padres to win during this window more than James Wood and C.J. Abrams and Mackenzie Gore. Could you use some of those guys right now? Yeah, I'm sure you could. It'd be nice to have James Wood in left field instead of the cycle that they've had in left field for the last, couple of months. That being said, Padres fans, all the Padres fans that don't like A.J. Preller trades, I got great news for you. He can rewrite the wrong this year's trade deadline. And we're going to talk about that in the next hour. You got to look at some of the names that are available at the trade deadline this year. There's a lot of former Padres. And you know what? There's a lot of former Padres farmhands. Maybe AJ should just go get all the former Padres at the deadline. I mean, go through the list. ESPN and Jeff Passan put out the top 50 potential trade targets at this year's deadline. And now a lot of that depends on whether or not the Red Sox sell or the Arizona Diamondbacks sell. Another major injury for the Diamondbacks last night. All of a sudden, they look more like they're going to sell. And I mentioned it yesterday. Even though I don't think the Padres and the Diamondbacks will reach a deal, them flooding the market makes it more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. In seller's markets, you're going to have to pay a lot more to get a certain player. It's the same thing as like the real estate market right now in San Diego. It's a seller's market. There's a lot of houses that are probably getting sold for way more than what they're actually currently worth. That's what you get when you don't. It's supply and demand. If there's not a lot of supply and a big demand, it's going to be very expensive to go get any type of player at the trade deadline. And again, you look at that article. It lays out everybody's needs and who the fits are. It's not just the Padres that need to improve their entire lineup. There's a lot of other teams. We talked about it with Frank yesterday, who's a Mets fan. They lost again last night. Frank's got like 6 or 7 spots the New York Mets need to fill. The Mets are right there at the top of the leaderboard in the National League. Now a couple of games back of Philadelphia for the NL East, but they're right there in the middle. They're right there in the thick of things. So it's a little bit about perspective on that. You look at the trade deadline and you look at the players that are available. There's a lot of players available that I didn't realize could be potentially available. A lot of rentals. We'll talk more about this in the 11 o'clock hour, but Seth Lugo is a rental piece that Kansas City could part ways with. I don't know how much you would have to give up for a guy like Seth Lugo. I don't think you have to give up a DeVries or a Salas. Definitely not. For a rental, you only have to pay about 40% of his contract this year, so it's not going to be that expensive. You could bring him back to San Diego. Nick Martinez, who you're going to face on Friday, you could bring back to San Diego. Shoot, you could make a trade with the Reds. You get Connor Joe, you can get Nick Martinez, you get Emilio Pagano Taylor and Taylor Rogers. Bring everybody back. I don't think they should do that. But I talked about yesterday, and I really talked about it the last couple of weeks. You know, you can't look at this team right now on this day and be like, this is or is not a playoff team. Even though I think they're going to make the playoffs this year, it's hard to determine if you're a playoff team or not before you even get to the trade deadline. I mean, everybody's roster drastically changes in Major League Baseball at the trade deadline. And last year at this time, and we talked about it on Monday, the Padres were under 500. They were under 500. They're not under 500. They're a couple of games above 500. And they're still relatively in the race in the division, which is something that I don't think a lot of people would have expected at the beginning of the year come June 25th if you're going to be within 5 games of the division. Padres are 5.5 games out of first place. There's a lot that can happen, especially with a team like LA that has a lot of injuries. Now, San Francisco continues to win. They lost last night, though. Got a game up on them again, so you're a game behind San Francisco for second place. You're right in the thick of things with the St. Louis Cardinals, the Milwaukee Brewers, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, start breaking it down. We got a Mets fan on the show. He thinks there's like 7 holes on the Mets roster. That's one of the teams you're competing with for a playoff spot. So there's a lot of other teams that have issues just like the Padres. And so you got to be able to just go through the rest of this month, wait to see what happens at the deadline, and then in the second half of the season. And really, there's a couple of, there's the second half of the season that starts Saturday. There's the ceremonial second half of the season, which starts after the All-Star break. And then I think there's the time frame of the post-deadline season. And the post-deadline season is drastically different than all the other ones. But until you see a couple of moves here and there, and think about all the potential options out there and teams that haven't decided yet if they're going to buy or sell, or teams that might just stand pat. A lot of it has to rely on the Arizona Diamondbacks. So why go trade for somebody right this second because you need a left fielder right now? Obviously, they know there's a problem if they don't know what the market's going to be yet. You got to wait for the market to set before you can start making decisions. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to overpay for a house that you don't necessarily want when the market might get flooded with a bunch of houses and all of a sudden drive the price down of the house that you might have paid more than you needed to in order to get it. So until you get to that point, this is the team that the Padres are, and they're good enough to beat the teams on their schedule in front of them. Last night, they went down 3-0, came back, won 4-3, had a couple of things go their way. Good teams find a way to win. We'll see if the Padres can do that again this afternoon. When we come back, we'll break down yesterday's game. We'll kind of talk a little bit about some of the decisions that were made. And then there's a stat that I saw last night offensively for the catching position that I thought was very interesting that we'll talk about too when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local every single day from 10 to 2. Today, we are live at the Loft. Frank Marchese showing on the YouTube what the field looks like, which is super cool. Early in the morning, this is a great view from the Loft. That's from like the area where you can get a suite, which is super cool here at Petco Park. But we're up here at the Loft. We're going to be here up until the Padres, the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show, and Sam Levitt. So when you get here to the ballpark and when the gates open, come up to the Loft. If you haven't been up here yet, it's super cool. There's nice leather seats. There's a great place. It's like it's a bar. And I mean, if you're gonna come down to the ballpark and go to a bar,
Thinking about home improvements? Genesis Home Improvements is San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Whether it's energy-efficient windows, durable exterior paint, or total roof protection, we bring quality and experience to every home project. Let us help create a new beginning for your home. Licensed, bonded, and insured. With 100% financing available. Save 15% on your next home improvement project today. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com. Genesis Home Improvements, a new beginning for your home.
Fire up the grill at your next backyard barbecue with Jensen's all-natural premium beef patties. Taste the Jensen difference by picking up a box in the frozen section at Food for Less. Jensen Meat, a proud sponsor of the Padres Radio Network.
Hey, it's Gravy, and June is Men's Health Month. I learned from Kaiser Permanente that lifestyle changes can help prevent many health conditions that commonly affect men, like watching your waist. Regardless of your weight, a waist that measures more than 40 inches increases your risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and colorectal cancer. You can help reverse your risk by reducing your waistline through healthy eating and exercise. For more health tips for men, visit kp.org/San Diego. Kaiser Permanente, for all that is you.
Contractors, ready to hit a home run with your next outdoor job? Swing into J&W Lumber for brands like TimberTech and Trex for all your decking, fencing, and pergola needs. We have everything you need, always in stock. Call 760-444-4299 or visit jwlumber.com. Let's get it started.
Tony Gwynn Jr. here. The baseball season is upon us, which means long days and restless nights. So I spoke to my friends at Symbiotica, who recommended I take their best-selling magnesium L-threonate daily. And let me tell you, my sleep is deeper, I wake up feeling refreshed, and my mind is sharper. If you're struggling with restless nights or brain fog, this is your game changer. Want to feel the same? Go to Symbiotica.com and use code PADRES for 15% off plus shipping site-wide. That's Symbiotica.com, code PADRES for 15% off.
Introducing Lineage Watch Company, an American watch brand proudly owned and operated here in San Diego. Lineage watches are more than just timepieces. They're a celebration of American craftsmanship, designed, engineered, and purpose-built in the USA. Lineage's watches are uniquely powered by American movements. Define your legacy today with the Lineage timepiece at lineagewatchco.com. That's lineagewatchco.com. Lineage Watch Company, the official timepiece of the San Diego Padres Radio Network.
Hey, it's Baja Rick. Craving a taste of Baja? Rockin' Baja Lobster and Baja Rick's Cantina will treat your gang to the flavors of the Baja Coast right here in San Diego. Large parties and family gatherings are our specialty. Our big Baja bucket for two, sizzling fajitas, whole Puerto Rico-style lobster, chilled margaritas, and rockin' tunes will make every meal feel like a beachside celebration. Join us at Rockin' Baja Lobster and Baja Rick's Cantina, just steps from Petco Park in the heart of Old Town and Oceanside Harbor. Eat, drink, and be Baja.
Late night watches, duty days, hard-fought missions. When you're running on empty, there's no room for error. Bulkhead Energy, built by heroes for heroes. Because being off your game can mean the difference between success and failure. Sugar-free with our new Tropic blend designed to sharpen focus. Military, first responders, essential workers. This is your fuel. Drink Bulkhead Energy. Fuel for heroes. Go to bulkheadenergy.com. Use code HERO25 for 25% off your first order.
The Window Depot wants to help bring your dream kitchen to life. As a family-owned and operated business, we pride ourselves on offering the best prices, the biggest inventory, and exceptional customer service you won't find at the big box stores. From premium cabinets to stunning quartz and granite countertops, faucets, hardware, and sinks, our designers are here to guide homeowners every step of the way, all under one roof. Find a location near you or shop online at thewindowdepot.com. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
Hi, this is Tina Howe from Bill Howe, where we've been serving San Diegans for over 40 years. Just like our hometown baseball team, we believe in teamwork, excellence, and delivering a win for our customers every day. From emergency plumbing repairs to routine heating and air maintenance, trust Bill Howe to keep your home running smoothly, supporting our community and our team together. Because at Bill Howe, we know.
All right, we're back. Hey, what's going on? Frank Marchese, Braden Surprenant here at the Loft. A little bit of an internet issue there for a second, but we're back up and running. No, we're not on the. We're wired in. We had just a little bit of a reboot. Our system decided to reboot itself, so we are back in action. Frank Marchese's here for the first time. Welcome to the live remote, Frank. Welcome to the Loft. We were talking about the Loft being such a great place to come and hang out at Petco Park, and your first live remote at the Loft.
Yeah, especially. Did you guys see that view that we just had there too? That was something you can see every single time you come here to the Loft.
The tickets for that is group seating, so you can go get group seating tickets for that during the game. But yes, the view up here is pretty cool. It's very, very unique situation having the Western Metal Supply Company building in Petco Park. I've said it multiple times when I broadcast here. It's a place my grandfather used to get building supplies when he was building a bunch of houses in Coronado when he was a young contractor. So good to be out here. As Go Aztecs in the chat said, maybe the next remote needs to be at Craft Taco just so Frank can try it.
Yes, yeah, we'll go with that one. Yes, absolutely.
Let's talk about the lineup. The lineup is drastically different today. And I was going to talk about a stat with a catching situation. I'll get to that in a little bit. But the lineup today, way different than it's been. A lot of changes. We went back with Luis Arraez batting leadoff, Manny Machado batting second, Jackson Merrill bats third, Fernando in the cleanup spot, Xander at 5, Gavin Sheets 6, Jose Iglesias 7, Bryce Johnson 8, and Elias Diaz is batting 9th for Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Padres. I don't know if now again, in the middle, so I can give the perspective. I can see what they're trying to do here. I like Fernando batting leadoff way more than I like Arraez batting leadoff. I don't, really view Luis Arraez as a leadoff hitter. So, but I can see like people go like, oh, singles hitter. He's got to bat leadoff, which is not necessarily the case anymore in professional baseball. But that's what the Padres want to do. A little bit of a shakeup, maybe to get the offense going. I love Machado batting second. I don't mind that at all. With Manny batting second. I wouldn't mind Fernando 1 and Manny 2. But just with Manny Machado usually batting third all the time. I like having him at third. 2 is really good too. I don't mind seeing Manny come up second in the batting order. Merrill 3, one of your better hitters batting third is great. And then Fernando in the cleanup spot. Maybe it's a way to get Fernando going a little bit more and being patient up there at the plate, or maybe giving him a better opportunity to get some swings in. But the whole thing for me on the batting order thing, and everybody always talks about like RBIs, but the reality is after the first round through the order, it doesn't really matter. At that point, the guy's got to get on in front of you. So maybe the sense of the fact that Fernando's coming up after the catching position is the big problem for the San Diego Padres, because the catchers never really get on too much. Unless it's Martín Maldonado going into left-hander. Then he gets on a lot. But I'd rather have Fernando come up more times than everybody else than have Luis Arraez bat leadoff. But hopefully they put up some runs doing this. I don't mind Machado batting second. I think he needs to be up in the first inning. It's going to be interesting to see if Fernando – I like having Fernando show up in the first inning, though.
I think what you're seeing is more of a traditional build of a lineup. You get your singles hitter up. Now, granted, he doesn't have the speed that a normal traditional leadoff hitter would, but you get guys on and you allow your big hitters, your big boppers to get hits with guys on, and hopefully drive some guys in. I mean, the only thing I would have changed probably out of this was have Merrill stay in the 2 spot and have Machado hit 3. But I honestly, I don't mind the lineup change because it kind of goes back, like I said, to that old style of lineup building where you have your leadoff guy who gets on base, creates a little bit of a panic, and then you have your big hitters to drive them in.
It is more of a traditional lineup than it is a new era lineup. But again, I'd rather have Tatis bat leadoff. But at the same time, every time we've talked about the lineup, I've mentioned those 4 players need to be in the top 4 in the batting order, and that's what they are. It's another shuffle around with Arise batting leadoff. The only thing I just really don't really want to see Machado batting leadoff. I mean, I could see him doing it though. One of your better hitters, get him up as many times as possible. But the whole idea, the RBI thing, the player that comes up with an opportunity to get RBIs, he has no impact on guys getting on in front of him. So regardless of what the situation is, and after the first time through, there's going to be different situations throughout the game in which those players are going to come up with guys on base. You can't hand pick it. So if the first 3 guys, but it's the same thing with Arise, right? Batting cleanup is if the first 3 guys get out, you do have Fernando leading off to start the second inning on top of that. But I'd rather see Fernando get up as many times as possible. I'd rather have the speed on the bases. But the thing is, though, that goes back on that with the lineup, is if Fernando and Merrill, if they're not going to run early and often in the game, then bat them lower in the lineup. I think him being able to run on the bases and being a threat on the bases is a little bit different than having Arise out there batting leadoff. But maybe Arise needs to bat leadoff to feel more comfortable at the plate and get his average up a little bit more. But that's not how I would do it. I hope it works out. I hope it's get some more offense going. But if you got those 4 guys in the top 4, it really doesn't matter what order they potentially are in.
Yeah, no, and with Arise, getting him out on base, getting him up first, doing his traditional leadoff hitter spot. The guy doesn't strike out. He does a lot. He does whatever he can to get on base. So that would be his traditional spot in the lineup. And maybe move Fernando out of that spot. He hasn't hit well lately. He's got all this off the field stuff going on that we went over yesterday. Maybe this is just another way, as you said before, to try to get Fernando going and try to get him seeing different pitches, seeing better pitches, and trying to help boost his confidence a little bit to where they can move him back to that leadoff spot.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's not a single by Arise and a ground ball double play in the first inning.
I'm sure a lot of our chat would respond to that. Well, Bogarts isn't hitting second, so that won't happen.
That's right. Well, the Padres have everybody in their lineup hitting a ton of double plays, tons of double plays. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show today. Going to talk a little bit about Ryan Bergert yesterday and the injury that he suffered. We do have an update on that. Plus, bullpen workload has been very high the last couple of weeks. Good thing there's an off day tomorrow. We will also break down what the Padres are going to do in the bullpen spot because we got some news about Robert Suarez today as well with his suspension. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, live from the Loft and the Western Metal Supply Company building, getting ready for Padres and Nationals. Final game of the homestand, final game of the series when we come back on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. Wow, Adam Klug's favorite bumper music. Truck Bed by Hardy. Every time he runs the show, he gets that song. It magically pops up. I almost feel like Adam inserts it himself. Braden Surprenant, Frank Marchese here live at the Loft as we host the Braden Surprenant Show, getting you ready for Padres baseball. So they take on the Washington Nationals for Game 3 of a 3-game series, going against former Padre Mackenzie Gore. We'll see how the Padres do. We'll see if the Padres win the Soto trade again today. I'm just going to, since it's so ridiculous, every Washington Nationals Padres game from here on out to the remainder of time, if the Padres win, they win the Soto trade. If the Padres lose, they lose the Soto trade.
Would you like me to read the stats so, one, it doesn't get on you, and two, so people get mad at me instead that I sent you last night?
Why not? Might as well.
So,
take the heat. Sounds good.
Before sweeping the season series last year, the Padres had not won a home series against the Washington Nationals since 2010. They've either lost or tied if it's been a 4-game series. Prior to 2011, when they lost their first series, the Padres had never lost a series at home against Montreal/Washington here at Petco Park.
That's pretty crazy, except for the fact that during that time frame that you mentioned, they were pretty good. The Washington Nationals were a lot better than before that. The Trey Turner Washington Nationals, the Juan Soto Washington Nationals.
Yeah.
Steven Strasburg, Washington Nationals.
You had that time there in the early, like the 2010s, 11, 12, where both teams were still kind of like figuring it out. Yeah.
2010, the Padres were good. After that, from the rest of the teams was not necessarily fun until 2019. So it should be a good day today. Padres will have Nick Pivetta on the hill going against the Washington Nationals. We did get a report from Jeff Sanders. Sean Reynolds is back. Sean Reynolds has a locker, and he's there. Jeff Sanders saw him. And he can't be here unless a pitcher is headed to the injured list, remember, because he got sent down. So he has to have a minimum amount of days down unless somebody gets hurt. So I would imagine Bergert's probably going to the IL. He makes the most sense. The other question that Jeff Sanders says, could Matt Waldron be called up to start in Philadelphia? We haven't seen Matt Waldron yet this year. And as I mentioned before, at the beginning of the year, you were going to get Waldron and Vasquez and Hart and Kolek, all those guys that were battling for a 5th spot were going to contribute throughout the season at different times of the year. That's why they always say, like, it takes 40, not just 25. It might even take more than 40 guys for a World Series team to go win a World Series or a playoff team to make the playoffs. So I would not be surprised if we see Matt Waldron sometime in Philadelphia against the Phillies next week. That's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series next week. Padres will play Cincinnati this weekend. You got Nick Martinez on the mound for the Reds coming up on Friday. Let's talk a little bit about last night. Speaking of Bergert, we had a couple of things last night with some injury updates on Ryan Bergert as we get one from Mike Schilt. Mike Schilt last night on Bergert's injury and the use of the bullpen after, because obviously with Bergert getting hit by the line drive, it really put the Padres in a situation that their taxed bullpen was going to be taxed even more. Here's what Mike Schilt had to say.
Yeah, unorthodox is right. As soon as we look up, Bergert, who everything looks to be negative, which is positive, and we'll take a day-to-day with him, see what that looks like. I mean, that's a bad spot to get hit at 103. And so, you're looking at the top of the order and going into the game, we knew we had some pin availability. And it was like, all right, we're down to a lot of confidence in our offense. And let's ride, let's go. And, we had prepped guys that, they may show up at different times. We weren't overly expecting to be the 4th. But like you said, different places for guys, but the right places for guys. And they went and did their job. Super efficient. They were all fantastic. Stuff was electric from all of them, but, Morejon going out, different role, like you mentioned. Grabbing the 4th, grabbing the 5th, super efficient, pound the strike zone, all but one strike, all strikes but one. That was close. And then, Adam comes in, not his typical spot, clearly, and we had an idea where we wanted to take him, and he did his part, man, did a really good job. And Estrada and was really efficient, sharp, looked good, slider good. Suarez was nasty, fastball was good, changeup was really, really good. So I needed it in that part of the lineup. So bullpen was on point.
The bullpen was on point. I mean, yesterday going into the situation, with Bergert getting hit by the line drive, which was at 103 miles an hour, you look at what the bullpens had to do. Remember, this is the toughest stretch of the year. Second tough. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Second toughest stretch of the year. The toughest stretch of the year is in August. You can almost say the entire month of August is going to be rough in terms of who you're playing, how many days off you have, everything like that. The only saving grace might be the Minnesota Twins, who might sell a lot of pieces at the deadline. And in the 11 o'clock hour, we're getting an early preview on the trade deadline. There's a lot of potential movement this year's deadline because there's a lot of teams that are competing for playoff spots. The American League is very tight-knit in terms of in terms of competition. The National League has a lot of good teams that are battling, and there's a couple of teams on the fence that might be selling after a couple of injuries. One of them being the Arizona Diamondbacks. So with all of that, you look at the trade deadline, it's going to be loaded with talent. So who knows what August will look like. September's a lot easier for the Padres, but August is the toughest stretch. This is the second toughest stretch. The amount of games that they have played without a day off, with only by one mixed in, and they got a day off tomorrow, which is great. On top of the fact that during this stretch, they had to play a lot of teams above 500 and a lot of teams that are competing for playoff spots. The bullpen has been used in excess. Add in the fact that Michael King hasn't made a lot of starts because he has been hurt during this particular stretch. Add in the fact that even though before I left to go on vacation to Italy, it was only a matter of weeks before Yu Darvish came back, and now it might be in July or maybe at the end of July. I mean, it just continues to be pushed on and pushed on and pushed on. So you didn't get any help with the pitching staff. You had guys like, and I think, to be honest with you, Kolek and Bergert and Vasquez, I think they've done a great job of just filling in for roles that they were not supposed to have at the beginning of the year. Those particular players were supposed to rotate in one position in the rotation. They were supposed to just keep flip-flopping in the number 5 spot, not be 3, 4, and 5 in your starting rotation with Dylan Cease and Nick Pivetta. I think they've done a fine job. But with the lack of depth right now in starting pitching with some of the injuries and guys not going deep into games, the bullpen and trying to win a lot of these important games has been taxed. So last night, Berger gets hit, and now you got to go with Adrian Morejon in the 4th inning. And thank goodness they kept putting off the Suarez suspension. He's out today. He'll be out today and on Friday. Padres are going to play with 25 guys. That was already reported earlier. So with the changes today, Sean Reynolds being in the locker room in the clubhouse today, they're not adding him because Suarez is suspended. They're playing with 25 guys for the next 2 games, which means it's even more of a problem with the bullpen. So Morejon had to come in the 4th inning. Then you had like Jason Adams pitching like the 6th inning. Estrada had to pick up the pace a little bit and eat some more innings. I mean, what you're asking this bullpen to do is very difficult, and they've done a phenomenal job. They've done a great job. I was talking yesterday with some coaches at Cathedral about I thought the pitching staff was good. Hey, man, they've been pitching like every day. That's very difficult to do for relief pitchers that are used to only going an inning, maybe like 2 days in a row max, but they want the ball. And they've done a great job of keeping the Padres in games. I mean, Monday didn't work out, but you can't blame them. I mean, they need some help from somewhere else. It's either the offense that needs to pick them up or the starting pitching needs to get them up. And last night was a tough situation for the Padres because there's nothing really you could do about it about Bergert getting drilled on a line drive back up the middle. So now the bullpen's taxed again, which makes today even more important for Nick Pivetta to go deep into the ball game into a off day. It'd be great if Nick Pivetta could go deep into this game. Now, they haven't made a roster move yet, but we do know Sean Reynolds is there. Sean Reynolds just got sent back down to AAA El Paso, which means he has to be down there for, I think was it 10 days? He has to be there for a significant amount of time. I can't remember. Is it 10 days?
I think it is 10.
I think it's 10 days.
Take a look.
The only way he is allowed to come back is if somebody gets hurt. So I would imagine they're going to put Bergert on the IL and then have Reynolds get activated to the roster. But you're still only you're only playing with 25 guys. Now, with that being said, Ryan Bergert last night did talk about what it was like getting hit by the pitch, or by the pitch. He wasn't hit by a pitch. He was hit by a line drive after he threw it. What that was like, what he's feeling, and we had an update last night. Here's Ryan Bergert.
Felt pretty typical, what do you expect from a line drive coming back at you? Obviously, sucks to happen so early. Had to burn a lot of the bullpen, but yeah, it's a little sore, but should be good.
You think you'll be good for your next start?
Might be a little early to say, too early to say, but I'm feeling hopeful. It feels good relatively right now. So X-rays are good, just a little sore.
X-rays on the forearm?
Yeah, mostly forearm. Yeah.
Maybe in the ribs too.
I didn't feel it. I know a few guys said that to me, but I didn't feel it in the ribs, just mainly forearm.
Felt pretty typical. Pretty typical is what he said. Felt pretty typical for a line drive coming back and hitting me. What a comment. I love it, dude. Some of these guys. He's like, I didn't even feel it hit my ribs. So they told me it hit my ribs. It's great.
He did say a little bit further towards the end there, it was a little bit further on, that he was asked about, do you think you'll be able to make your next start? And he said, it's still a little early on that, but we'll see how it goes tomorrow. And if Sean Reynolds is here, it didn't go tomorrow.
Right. Or, maybe they just called Reynolds up last night. Just take the time. And I think the Padres this year have been very cautious about all their players with injuries. I think they've been extra cautious. And again, you can do that. You have the luxury to do that when you know you are going to be a playoff team at the end of the year. Like, until things get drastically bad. Now, Padres fans like to I'm not going to say Padres fans. All fans like to overreact. I'm sure in New York right now, it's fire and brimstone on the sports radio networks, on WFAN and WCBS or whatever the sports stations are out there, because the Yankees and the Mets are in complete free falls right now. But that happens in the middle of a baseball season. That's baseball. You're going to see that a lot. So people like to overreact when it comes to their favorite ball club. So despite all of that, and Padres fans just going up and down with a lot of different things, trying to keep it even keel on the show, the Padres are a good baseball team. They're a good baseball team. Are they a complete baseball team? No. Are they a favorite to win the World Series with the team that they have intact, where they could just go through the trade deadline without making any moves? Absolutely not. But as of right now, their team is still better than most teams in Major League Baseball. Their record shows it. So you look at the situation at hand with the Padres. They're thinking about October. They don't want anybody burning out in the middle of the season. They're thinking about October. So any type of nick, bruise, ding, if it's enough to give them days off and put them on the IL, the Padres are going to do that. I think you've seen that multiple times this year already. So Bergert most likely going the IL. We'll see Sean Reynolds back. But today, the important thing, as we kind of lead into the topic we wanted to discuss here in the Padres bullpen workload, you need some guys to go get some innings right now if you're the San Diego Padres and they're starting pitching. As Frank did some research, San Diego Padres starting pitching went into last night 18th in innings pitched. 18th in innings pitched. Padres have 3 of the top 10 relievers in appearances this year with Adam Estrada and Morejon. Those are the guys. And as we had a phone call yesterday, why do you go with Matsui there? You can't pitch Adam Estrada and Morejon every single day. You can't do it. They're going to get burnt out. Does anybody remember the 2021 Padres? The 2019 Padres? Where at the beginning of the season, the bullpen was elite, but you had guys like Nick Margevicius getting starts and guys like Matt Strom and Eric Lauer and and nobody was eating up any innings. And so the bullpen, by the time May rolled around, was already taxed, and it came falling down and crashing down, despite, having Manny Machado and Eric Hosmer and Fernando Tatis Jr.'s rookie season. So today it's very imperative that Nick Pivetta goes out there and eats some innings.
And I believe after last night, Adam was leading the league in relievers appearances. I believe Estrada with his 38th yesterday. I believe he jumped up into the top 5, and I know that Morihone jumped up into the top 10 as well. So that's a lot of work and a lot of stress that they've put their relievers under this year. Pitching in Adam, at least, just pitching in more than half the games so far this year.
We got some good updates yesterday from AJ Cassavell on Michael King and on Yu Darvish. Again, more good updates, but until they run out of the dugout and grab the ball on the mound, when Alex Miniak announces, here's your San Diego Padres, they're just updates. They're just updates. So, but we got some good. I mean, it sounds like they've, Michael King yesterday threw a little bit, and he said he felt as good as he's been in a while, and today was the day of trying to figure out whether or not there was any type of setback or how he's feeling in terms of soreness. Again, it's a nerve. You can't fix a nerve, right? You can go to a chiropractor and kind of move things around a little bit and free up said nerve if that happens to be a problem. But you got to wait a little bit. There's not a lot of things you could do to fix nerves too much. So when Michael King, it's kind of a pain tolerance thing, and he's going to try to get back there as quickly as possible. But it sounds like, he's gotten his body aligned to a spot where he feels good. Hopefully it freed up the nerve a little bit, and we'll see what type of or how Michael King felt today on the latest report that we might get. But it'd be good to have Michael King back, sooner rather than later. And I don't think it's a situation where people will freak out and be like, oh, he's out for the year. No, he's not. Relax. He's not out for the year. And people upset about Yu Darvish not pitching yet. I don't really care about Yu Darvish pitching right now in June. I do care about him pitching in September. And to be honest with you, if Yu Darvish does not pitch until after the trade deadline, I still don't care. Because Kolek and Vasquez and some of these guys, even though it might be frustrating to watch them pitch sometimes if you're a fan, they're giving you opportunities to win. And the Padres have the pitching to give you opportunities to win in the regular season. I need guys like Yu Darvish in the postseason. I need Yu Darvish in October. I need Pivetta, Cease, King, Darvish in October more than I need them in the middle of the season. They could use another arm. They could use a lot of different things. The Padres can. This next hour, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot available for the Padres on the market. Frank and I will discuss when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan, live from the Loft, Western Meadow Supply Company building.
Hey, it's Ben Higgins, and I love talking about anything sports related, but it's baseball season where we truly shine. Join Woods and myself all year long to talk about the games, the moves, and all the Padres drama, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on 97.3 The Fan.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. GEG 0000466. For a full list of games and rules, play at 7 Mile Casino. Visit 7milecasino.com.
Hey, it's Ben Woods here, reminding you that San Diego's best place to play cards is also its closest. 7 Mile Casino offers Texas Hold'em poker, California-style blackjack, high gal poker, and baccarat.
Make sure you get in on the weekend for their award-winning brunch from Sammy's.
It's so easy to get to. You don't have to drive into the East County. Just head down the 5 freeway to Chula Vista, get off Bay Boulevard right there on San Diego Bay. It's our place. Make it your 7 Mile Casino, just 7 minutes from downtown.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Action Matters.
Attention former childhood residents of juvenile detention centers in San Diego. If you were housed at either Polinsky Children's Center, San Diego County Juvenile Hall, Youth Transition Campus, or any other San Diego juvenile detention center and were a victim of sexual abuse, now is the time to come forward, as you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. San Diego County Probation Department faced complaints about rampant sexual abuse for decades and failed to protect youth inmates in these facilities. If you were housed at a San Diego youth detention facility at any time and were subjected to any sexual abuse from staff members, other inmates, or residents, you may be entitled to substantial cash compensation. Call our San Diego Juvenile Detention Helpline now at 800-890-5302. The deadline to file a claim may be close. Call now to get the justice, closure, and the financial settlement you deserve. Call our law firm's Juvenile Detention Sexual Abuse Helpline right now at 800-890-5302. 800-890-5302. 800-890-5302.
That Credit? No credit? Got a trade? Hyundai of El Cajon says yes. Drive a new 2025 Hyundai Tucson SE for just $249 a month plus tax with zero security deposit. We're paying up to 120% of KBB for your trade. Plus, every new Hyundai comes with America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty with Hyundai Assurance. Only at Hyundai of El Cajon and HyundaiofElCajon.com.
10,000 miles or yearly for 36 months. Free $995 down plus tax, license, and first month payment. Not everyone will qualify. Restrictions may apply. See dealer for details.
Fraser Farms Market, your natural grocer since 1971. Your one-stop shop for all your summer essentials. Now through June 30th. Fresh, all-natural boneless, skinless chicken breast, $3.99 a pound. Fresh yellowtail fillets, $6.99 a pound. Dark sweet cherries, $3.99 a pound. And clean cause yerba mate, 3 for $5. Huge savings all week. Shop Fraser Farms Market in La Mesa, Oceanside, and Vista. Fraser Farms Market, a better way to shop for a better way to live.
Hello, my friends. It is Woodsy, and obviously the big focus in America today is on your health. You're determined to look beyond pills and steroids and surgery to feel your best, right? Let me talk to the person who's in pain right now. It doesn't have to be this way. You've done everything they've told you to do. The pain comes back. You're exhausted. Don't give up. Call QC Kinetics today. They have helped thousands of people, many of them right here in San Diego. They'd be honored to help you as well. They're not masking the pain. They're going after the source. 619-614-PAIN. 619-614-PAIN. It's QC Kinetics.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, HIMS can help. Through HIMS.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/joy, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but HIMS can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. hims.com/joy.
Padres Nationals today.
That's some Gold Glove defense out in right field for Fernando Tatis Jr.
Pregame 12:10. First pitch 1:10. The Padres play here on 97.3 The Fan.
KWFN and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
Hey, it's Chris Ello, the encyclopedia voice of Chris versus the fans. Listen for yourself to Gwynn and Chris, weekdays from 2 to 6.
Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2. We're going to be on here until about 12:05 before we hand it over to Sam Levitt in the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. We are live at the Loft, myself, Braden Surprenant, as well as Frank Marchese, for about an hour and 5 minutes left of today's show. These shows go by so fast, especially these shortened ones before Padres baseball. So when you guys get down to the ballpark early, I tell people that all the time. Enjoy your time at the ballpark. It's expensive to come down here, and it's everything that you have to make some sacrifices. Come watch the Padres, and the Padres really appreciate all the fans of San Diego coming down here and cheering the boys on and everything like that. But if you're going to a Padre game, and it's funny, I talked about it today on my workout. One of the trainers, Teddy, went to the game last night. He left at 6:00 to get down to the game. I said, "What'd you get there? Like the third inning?" He's like, "I got there in the fourth inning." I'm like, "The fourth inning?" He's like, "Well, I work a lot." He's like, "I understand that, but if you're going down to the ballpark, either take the time off, try to get off a little bit early, get down. It's just so much more relaxing to come to the ballpark way before the crowds do. I do it all the time. If I come down as a patron, when I come down here as a media member, I'm down here super early anyway because clubhouse availability, right? Like when we're doing our show, we're like the first ones into the parking lot every morning when we come down here to do these shows. But when I come down as a fan and I go with my friends, we're down here super early. Now, maybe it's a little bit different. Obviously, me being in my early 30s and my buddies being in their late 20s, early 30s, It's a lot easier for us to come down. We don't have to worry about kids and everything like that. But if you get down to the ballpark early, you can hang out in the gas lamp, which is the coolest thing about Petco Park. I mean, being that close to bars and restaurants, bars for the older crowd, restaurants for the families. I mean, it's great to come down, relax, have dinner, have lunch, and then cruise in when the gates open. And when the gates open, and I'm telling you right now, if you haven't left yet, get down to the ballpark. When the gates open, you got to come up to the Loft and come say hi to us at the Loft. And we're here on most day games at Petco Park during the week. These Wednesday day games, we try to be out here and have a presence at Petco Park, right? We love seeing you guys come out to the ballpark and hang out with us. We're talking to Ron in La Mesa, my fellow Big 12 brethren. Love it, the K-State guy. Now, I only dislike Ron when we play the Wildcats, but aside from that, you know what? The Big 12's got to stick together. So I expect a lot of phone calls out of Ron in La Mesa in the football season. It was fun talking Big 12 football with him. But when the gates open, you can come out and hang out with us here at the Loft. The seat, if you get here early, too, you get a seat. I mean, the other day, me and my buddy Matt, we came down to the ballpark, went and got a beer at Bub's, had lunch at Bub's, came up to the Loft and the gates open, and we just hung out up here at the Loft. They got MLB Network on some of the TVs. Right, they got the scoreboard feed and everything like that. You can come down and get a drink. It's nice and casual. We'll see our guys Rod and Nate from the YouTube chat. They usually come down and say hi. So when you get to the ballpark, if you haven't done so, get here early. And when you get here early, there's stuff for you to do. Like when I was a kid, I didn't want to get there too early. Like, what are you going to do all day? But there's a place for you to hang out. It's the Loft. There's other places around the ballpark you can go hang out. There's multiple bars that you can hang out pregame, where you can enjoy a drink. It's not a rush into the ballpark. You're not waiting in lines. It's a great time to be up here at the Loft. And it stays open for like an hour after the game. Last couple innings, watch Robert Suarez on the day he's not suspended close out a game up at the Loft. It's a great time. So come say hi, and hang out with us a little bit before you enjoy some Padres baseball. We'll be here till about 12:05 before Sam Levitt takes over. When Sam takes over, we'll be here a little bit longer to say hi and talk and do everything you want to, take pictures, whatever you want to do. But it's fun to be out here. So again, if you haven't been to the Loft yet, you got to check it out. It's a nice place. It's a very nice place to enjoy before the game starts. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show. This hour of the show, it's a little of trade deadline talk. And I know we got time. We got tons of time. But this is kind of a preview. We're starting to get phone calls on the show about what do you think the Padres should get? Who do you think the Padres should go, look at the deadline? Who's available? In this hour, we're going to tell you not only who's available, but who fits the Padres and what the latest rumors are. And they're starting to trickle in. And for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be like this for the Major League Baseball season. You're going to see a lot of rumors out there. This guy's interested. This team's interested in this particular player. This team's asking about this particular position. A.J. Preller's on the phone with this guy. Then you get to see all the memes of A.J. Preller on the cell phone. I think that's always on the phone anyway. So we got the latest rumors according to MLB.com, and we're going to discuss them as I bring back in Frank Marchese, enjoying his first remote. How's it been?
I'm enjoying it a lot, actually. We might run over to the rail for the next segment and just give you guys a nice shot of the view again. That was fun to do. Hopefully I don't kick the power strip this time.
Yeah, we had internet issues last time we did that, so maybe next time.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. All right, so rumors abound as far as the Major League Trade Deadline is concerned. One coming down today is that the Cubs are looking at starting pitching. Taking a look at names such as Sandy Alcantara from the Miami Marlins, even throwing around names like Mitch Keller from the Pittsburgh Pirates as being an option. Now Chris Sale, we know, is out as far as an option for the Chicago Cubs. Does it seem more likely that they're going to find a guy like Alcantara or Mitch Keller to fill a pitching spot? They just sent Ben Brown down yesterday as well.
Well, they need pitching, right? I mean, when we watch the Chicago Cubs team here at Petco Park and at Wrigley Field, now the bullpen has been rough. for Chicago. But the pitching staff has been what hasn't – that's been the part that's been the Achilles heel for the Chicago Cubs. They can hit with anybody in Major League Baseball. They can hit with anybody. I mean, they might be the best. I think they've been the most productive lineup in Major League Baseball. I'm not looking at stats, and I bet you the stats probably say the same. But they need pitching. And they need pitching in a bad way. Like the Padres could use another arm. They could use another arm. The Padres don't necessarily absolutely need an extra arm. They could use one. They need a left fielder. They could use another arm. So I saw that trade proposed the other day by Jim Bowden. Luis Robert Jr. one, I was like, okay, makes sense. We talked about that a couple of days ago.
Give him a little bit of credit.
And then I immediately, this is the problem with Jim Bowden for me. He gets me on board. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then he just throws out something where I'm like, this guy does not pay attention to the West Coast. Because he had the one with the Padres potentially giving up 4 players for Alcantara, and 2 of them being Ethan Salas and Leo DeVries. No, thank you. I don't need Alcantara that bad. Absolutely not. Padres could use an arm. They do not need an arm. If the Padres were one pitcher away from winning a World Series, or feel like they're one pitcher away from being a World Series contender, I would consider that. If Alcantara was not coming off of Tommy John surgery, and if he was actually playing very well and pitching at a high level, if they were trading for prime Alcantara, I'd be like, all right, we'd have to consider. I still wouldn't be super in on it, but it would be we have to consider this. We have to consider this. So, from that particular perspective, I would say the Cubs are a team that needs they need a pitcher. So, for them to go after and go get an Alcantara, I think makes a lot more sense than somebody like the San Diego Padres, who have been listed to, Alcantara. They've made a lot of trades with the Marlins and everything like that. So I could see that for the Cubs, him or Keller. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, go with Keller. The Cubs have the resources to do it. And I would not be surprised if the Cubs go get Alcantara. In fact, I had this conversation with Kyle Glazer on opening day. He said the Cubs on opening day were his favorite to get Alcantara.
And I feel as though, like, as far as the Alcantara stuff is concerned, it's, as you pointed out, they've made a lot of deals with the Marlins, so it seems like a logical fit because so many deals are done. It almost seems like a fit of convenience. But especially after the way the media and the way their fan base and the way our fan base completely dogged the Marlins for getting fleeced of Luis Ariz, that they're not going to make that same mistake again. They can't make that same mistake again. That'll be general manager malpractice to make that same mistake again.
We got the official Padres roster move. They have placed Ryan Bergert on the 15-day injured list. No surprise. With a right forearm contusion, they have recalled Sean Reynolds from AAA El Paso.
Couldn't imagine how that happened.
Wow, amazing.
All right. So
100% on deals on that.
There you go. The Minnesota Twins could be a team to watch as far as the trade deadline is concerned, not necessarily as buyers, because they currently sit, at least at last watch. It's been a while since I've been.
It's not your week to watch them?
Yeah, no, it's not my week to watch them. They currently sit 12 and a half games out of the AL Central. So they're right within striking distance of something. So they are a team that could, just like Arizona, could shape the trade deadline.
They absolutely could do that. And I look at, and we're going to get to the top 50 potential trade candidates. The 3 wildcard teams, I think, and it's not necessarily I think, a lot of people think this, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Boston Red Sox, and the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins have, Johan Duran, relief pitcher that throws absolute gas Fastball averages at 100.2 miles an hour. His what they call a splinker sits at 97. It's very difficult to hit. He could be somebody that's on the market for Minnesota. Other players from the Minnesota Twins, they do have some help with some bullpen arms and other things like that, but they are potentially a team that could make the market change a little bit. I don't think they're as big as Arizona or even Boston, but that's another team that's right there on the fence that could be selling some assets at the deadline.
We go now to New York, as you mentioned before, but very kindly, as you mentioned before. The Mets and Yankees are both flailing at the moment. Yankees are looking to prioritize bullpen help, which there typically is a lot of around the trade deadline. Same thing with the New York Metropolitans. We'll be looking to prioritize deadline help. And after yesterday, please, for the love of it all, do prioritize that bullpen help. And also looking for a center fielder after Jose Siri went down for the entirety of the season.
What happened last night between the Mets and the...
Frankie Montas, after giving up 9 million runs in his 3 rehab starts in Syracuse, then decided to throw 5 shutout innings, only for the bullpen to give it up in the 6th. All of it gone immediately after Frankie Montas left the game.
Meet the Mets. Meet the
I bet
Mets.
you.
Blooper, dude. Blooper got you last night. It's okay. At least you weren't as unhinged as their super fanatic that also has the same name as you.
Frank bleeping Fleming.
We have an update on the lineup. Xander Bogaerts has been scratched with left shoulder soreness. Updated lineup: Arise, Machado, Merrill, Tatis, Sheets, Iglesias, Johnson, Wade, Diaz.
And that would come from the slide into home plate in the latter stages of the game. So he was feeling something from that.
Which I thought was a very poor decision.
He
was not going to be saved.
No.
Like, I get it. Like, natural instinct for competitors and athletes is doing whatever it takes to try to.
Was that during
whatever.
Martin Maldonado's at bat in the latter stages of the game yesterday?
I can't remember the exact at bat. I just remember, because I was on the phone, I remember sitting there going like, why is he doing that? He's out by a mile. Just don't hurt yourself.
I remember with Martin Maldonado's at bat, I believe it was in like the 7th or the 8th, when he's bunting at the first couple of pitches. I'm losing my mind because he's bunting against a right-hander whose stuff is all breaking away. So if you're trying to pull off the same squeeze play that Washington pulled at the beginning of the game, if you get a breaking ball and you bunt it, you're most likely bunting it down the first baseline, so the runner on third has no chance. That's a ball you need to bunt. If you're a lefty throwing against a righty, that's when you bunt in that spot. If you're a righty going against the lefty, is when you bunt in that spot. Not righty versus righty where the ball's going to go away from where you need it to be.
Well, he does bat 135 against righties.
Congratulations.
You know what he bats against lefties?
042.
Martin Maldonado?
Yeah.
He's batting 313 this year against lefties.
I might have been wrong.
I teased this before. Martin Maldonado against lefties is batting 313, a 371 on base percentage, 469 slug, which gives him an 840 OPS. Not bad for a guy that sucks at hitting, apparently, according to a lot of Padres fans.
Leadoff hitter against lefties. Make it happen.
His batting average on balls in play against left-handers is 450. 450. That's amazing.
Is Mackenzie Gore a righty or a lefty?
He's a lefty.
Who's our catcher today?
That'd be Diaz.
Yeah, well, you know.
How about this? When Maldonado swings at the first pitch, he's hitting 278 with a 1222 OPS, 4 home runs on the 5 hits. When he swings first pitch, he has 5 hits. 4 of them go over the fence.
Leadoff hitter.
BABIP, 071 on the first pitch. Because you know why? He's putting the ball over the fence. He's got a terrible BABIP. When he leads off an inning, it's batting 250. Hey, you know what? Martin Maldonado might have to be the leadoff guy against left-handers. How about that? How about that for what? Whatever, stupid take.
It's Trav Gundy in the chat, NL MVP.
Hey, you know what?
NL MVP, Martin Maldonado, who is reportedly supposed to be retiring at the end of the year as well.
Like we said, it's a catch. They're there to catch the pitching staff. They're not there to hit, because if they're there to hit, who would be starting against every left-hander? It would be Martin Maldonado. What's the next one? As you look that up, I'm going to see what Diaz's splits are.
So
If they're the exact opposite, I'm going to be upset.
We're getting close. We probably should.
We should take a break.
Yeah, hit for a break here instead. Honestly,
we got more stuff coming for you when it comes to the trade deadline. And can the Padres right the wrong on some of the trades? There are players available that the Padres sent away that they could bring back. We'll talk about that when we come back in the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. Little Mac Miller on a Wednesday afternoon. Get down to the ballpark and have yourself a day, huh, Frank?
Absolutely, 100%. It's a beautiful day at that, too.
It is a beautiful day. You know who our guy Rod yesterday had a great day. Guy had a great Tuesday. He had such a great Tuesday that he encouraged Sushi Sam in the chat to have a great Tuesday and also go down to Point Loma Seafood.
There you go.
Get yourself a sloppy squid sandwich. I don't even know if sloppy's on the thing anymore. That's just what it used to be called. I got to get one of those. I haven't had one of those in a long time. Squid sandwich, fried calamari, sourdough bread, tartar sauce. Call it a day. Sam got some fish tacos there. Elite.
The Braden Surprenant Show is 100% open to any and all food sponsorships, especially from places named Mona Lisa's or Long Island Mike's or any other Italian restaurants not named Olive Garden.
But we have our official taco place.
We do have our official taco place.
Craft Taco.
We are on the lookout for an official Italian place, though.
I know. You know what? Are we going to? I just saw this. Are we going to Italian night? Italian Heritage Night? July 7th.
I thought that was a give-in.
I kind of want one of the hats, though. I got to buy one of the theme tickets.
I want one of the original hats from the first year, the one that looked like the Ferrari logo.
You could probably find that on eBay.
I'm not paying $9,000 on eBay
There's
for
no way
a giveaway hat.
There's no way somebody's selling $9,000 for the Italian Heritage hat.
Have you seen some of the prices that the bat flip bobbleheads have gone for?
There's a difference between the bat flip bobblehead and the Italian Heritage Night hat that has an SD on it. Slightly different.
I don't think so.
I think if you just say you're Italian, you get a discount.
I should.
On the eBay tickets, not the Padres tickets.
Well, yeah, obviously.
I have to specify. Just in case. Got an Italian horn? I got to add an Italian horn for my my chain.
Show up through security. We'll have the wife beaters on, the gold chain. It's like, it's a nice stack of hats you got there. It'd be a shame if somebody, came in and messed with it a little bit,
Is that a way for us to muscle our way into throwing the first pitch on Italian Heritage Night?
That would be, you know what? Again, we're open to it. We're definitely open to it. Bennett Woods got to throw out the first pitch on just a random night.
What do we have to do a show in Little Italy? What do we have to do to get our faces on some of those banners out there? They put the banners up in Little Italy of like, oh, the Italian. Local Italians,
I think,
on the air. What do we got to do?
I think we may need to do something historically important, maybe. I don't know.
No, I've seen radio personalities on there before. There's still one on there that's not even.
You mean like Marconi, the one who
that's not what
created the radio?
No. I might tell you off air who I've seen on the Little Italy things. If that guy's on it, I don't know why we're not on it. I'm a descendant of the tuna fishermen in my family and from Little Italy. I'm just saying. A live show at Mona Lisa's would feed families.
Yes. Well, it would feed us for
feed
sure.
Us. That's right. That's right. I love it. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. We only need to throw out the first pitch for the Italian Heritage Night for people like, oh, let's great. It's a joke. It'd be sick, though. But it's a joke. I think we got a phone call. Brandon in Carlsbad is on the line. Brandon, get us fired up on a Wednesday. Are you having a Wednesday? Have yourself a Wednesday.
What up, Big B? What's up, fellas? Yeah, let's have a Wednesday, huh? Hey, you know what? Sound the trumpet, boys. We're in the trenches. You said something the other day, Braden. I really looked into it. Like, okay, we called June Murderer's Row. Okay, things didn't go the way we like, but guess what? July and August and even September are going to be no more friendly. We're going to have to get in the trenches and sound the trumpet, fellas. It's going to be war. We can still get in the playoffs. I even think we can still win the division. I know, the peanut gallery, I already hear you chirping, but that's all good because I stay fired up. I'm a Friar faithful. And you know what? Little things like Maldonado hitting the jammer, getting that little electricity built up. We got guys making contact. We need a little bit more. I'm tired of these 2, 3, 4 run, wins that we have. But a dub's a dub at the end of the day. And I think we can do it. Let's get this W today and go on this road trip and just get in that samurai status, boys. We're chopping heads off. We're here for warfare. We're not, we didn't come to take part. We came to take over. God bless you guys.
Brandon's fired up, man. He's fired up on a Wednesday. I love it. He gets the chat going, man. He gets the chat fired up. There's not a lot of negative comments about Brandon.
All the time.
Have yourself a Wednesday. Anybody mind? I'm going to enjoy the day at the ballpark. We'll go hit some OTL later. I had a couple of people pick me up on the offer about the shirts. So shirts are dialed in. We'll work on getting you those shirts before July 12th for Over the Line. But we're excited. It's Padres baseball. What else could you be possibly doing that's better than this, Frank, right?
I can't. I could be working today. Well, I am working
you are working
today.
You're working. This is great. This is a great place to work.
I can think of worse jobs. I've had worse jobs.
Hanging out here. Nate Taylor from the chats here. We got fans rolling in now. It's going to be a great time. When we come back, we'll talk more about what is potentially out there for the Padres at the trade deadline. So the Padres could be, as Brandon said, samurai status, no more friendlies in the second half of the season. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. Already our final segment on the Braden Surprenant Show. Live from the Loft. People are starting to roll in, which is great. Getting ready for Padres baseball. Sam Levitt will take over at 12:10 on the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, leading you in to Padres baseball. It's a fun time here at the Western Metal Supply Company building at the Loft. As I said, people are starting to roll in now. The gates are open here at Petco Park. Come up here, get a drink, come say hi. Even if you don't need a drink, come up here and hang out and say hi. You can do that too. Frank Marchese's here. I'm Braden Surprenant as we continue the Braden Surprenant Show. We want to talk a little bit more about some of the options that are out there at the trade deadline. Now, we're not going to get to all of it right now because we still got to get a sports thread in and a lot of other moving parts. So we're going to get to some of this today, and we'll talk more about this coming up tomorrow. I do want to mention that on Friday, you're going to want to tune into the Manager's Report with Mike Schilt at 9 in the morning on Ben & Woods. The Manager's Report is refreshed by EcoWater SoCal. Try alkaline water for just $9.95 a month. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. All of our baseball coverage here on 97.3 The Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. We are continuing that baseball coverage as we look at some of the top trade candidates according to ESPN. Jeff Passan and company, Kylie McDaniel, put out what they thought was the top 50 trade deadline targets for teams coming up at this year's trade deadline. Now, a lot of these names don't have a high percentage of getting traded because of a lot of different situations. But what is listed is if some of these teams decide to sell, these are the players that could be sold. And on top of that, they are ranked on who the best player potentially is. So just to start with number one, and I'm not going to go in order, but we're going to go through in some of the ones that are kind of linked to the Padres or mentioned as fits for the Padres. The worst part on the list was Alex Bregman. Obviously, the Padres don't have a fit. They're not a team that has a fit for Alex Bregman. And on the same token of that, he's not getting traded. There's no way that they just trade everybody out of the Red Sox organization. They just brought him in, and because Rafael Devers he was upset, didn't want to be a team player, they ended up sending him elsewhere. This kind of started that whole thing. I can't imagine them sending Devers away and then sending Bregman away. But it's a potential option because of his contract being, not as many years. 10% chance of being traded. So, again, before we go on this list, to give you an example, these are the teams that might sell at the deadline with a lot of teams that will sell. It's ranked in the order of how good those players are, not necessarily how likely they will be traded. And we get to number 2 on the list because number 2 on the list is a Red Sox and is a fit for the San Diego Padres and has been linked to the San Diego Padres, Frank.
He also has a 25% chance of getting traded, at least as far as the article is concerned.
That's neither here nor there.
That would be outfielder Jarren Duran would be number 2.
Huge breakout season in 2024. He's posting his 7th best WAR in the majors at 6.7. He overperformed his underlying metrics, had some lucky outcomes, and those metrics have regressed a bit this year. Now he's underperforming them He has been unlucky, so his true talent is somewhere south of that star level 6.7 figure, but better than the roughly 2 WAR he's on pace for this season. You have to give up a lot, I think, for Jarren Duran. There's multiple years of control for Jarren Duran. Best fits, San Diego, Atlanta, Cleveland, KC, San Francisco, Philly, even your New York Mets, Frank. I know the Padres have been making calls for a while now on Jarren Duran. I just think where the Padres are at in terms of prospect capital, in terms of overall budget, how much you'd have to give up for Jarren Duran, even though he would be the best outfielder you could grab if you're the Padres, I just don't see it happening. I honestly think Jarren Duran probably stays a Red Sox through the deadline.
And again, with how much control he still has, that's going to raise the price for you.
Right.
So it's are you going to be willing to pay the price? Are you going to be okay with giving up an Ethan Salas, which is why you don't have the catching position that you have right now the way you want it, is because you're waiting on Ethan Salas to come up. So it's going to be, are you okay with giving away what you're going to have to give away in order to get him?
And for anybody that says, well, the Giants didn't give up a lot for Rafael Devers, remember, they picked up his entire contract, which is a big, big number on the payroll sheet. And in order to do that, they didn't have, if they take the entire contract, they didn't have to send as much to Boston. It's a little bit different. Jarren Duran's not making a lot of money in comparison to a lot of different things. So that's why it's going to be a little bit, you'd have to give up a lot, I think, for Jarren Duran. You would probably, I would imagine, if you want Jarren Duran, you'd have to part ways with Ethan Salas. I'm not ready to do that yet, and a lot of Padres fans are ready to pull the trigger. And I just know, if they pull the trigger on Ethan Salas getting shipped off somewhere else in about 3 or 4 years,
it's going to be a James Wood. It's going to be a
phone calls
Abrams.
Are we going to get about that potential trade? Sandy Alcantara is on here. He's a 60% chance of getting traded. Padres are listed as a best fit. I don't see the Padres making this move because, if it's anything close to what Jim Bowden said that they would have to give up to get this guy, I'm super out.
No, absolutely not. By the way, we just had a gentleman walk past us with a baseball glove straight from the 1920s. That was fantastic.
And then he waved like this.
Yes.
With the glove.
I'm going to do the next 2 here because they're both linked to San Diego, and one we've already talked about a lot, and that's Sandy Alcantara. Freddie Peralta is another one. Now, the Milwaukee Brewers are currently sitting second place in the NL Central, 2.5 games behind the Chicago Cubbies. They are in a wild card spot tied with St. Louis for that wild card spot. Freddie Peralta is only being given about a 20% chance of being traded, but that's one of those A.J. Preller style moves where a guy you're not necessarily expecting to go ends up finding his way out.
His last 2 years of a deal, he's getting $8 million this year. So if you do make that trade, you're going to only have to pay 40%, roughly 40% of that contract of the $8 million, and it comes with an $8 million club option. So it's relatively a 2-year deal because he's worth, as a starting pitcher, he's at age 29 right now. He just turned 29. He's worth $8 million. So it's really be trading for 2 years of control of Freddie Peralta. I don't think the Brewers are going to sell like that at the deadline. But you know what? They did that a couple of years ago with Josh Hader. And the Padres picked up Josh Hader from Milwaukee in a situation where Milwaukee was still competing, and it didn't make a lot of sense, and it ruffled a lot of feathers. But the thing is Milwaukee finds ways to continue to make the playoffs and be competitive despite selling a lot of their big names year after year.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to stick with the starting pitchers here for the next 2. We're going to do the double again. Seth Lugo from the Kansas City Royals. Again, Kansas City in somewhat of a contending spot. They're 11.5 games out of the division, so they're not winning that, but they are only 3.5 games out of the wild card as it currently sits. So Kansas City possibly selling Seth Lugo. You also have an interdivisional rival, Arizona, possibly selling Zach Gallen. So a lot of these starting pitchers are being seen as fits to come here during the deadline.
Again, these are all pitchers that if you're a team that needs pitching, won't necessarily throw everything after. These are in the category of teams that can use a starting pitcher. Now, we both agree. I don't think the Padres make a deal with the Diamondbacks at all in the trade deadline, but it does flood the market, which is good. I like the Seth Lugo trade. I'd like an idea of potentially acquiring Seth Lugo because, again, Seth Lugo is probably a 1-year rental. He's a half-year rental. He's got a $15 million player option next season that he's probably not going to take. Maybe he does take it. He is 35 years old, but he's having a great year. He's got a sub-3 ERA. We saw him pitch against the Padres a couple of days ago. He looked really good. And to add him back in the rotation, back in the Padres uniform, like he was in 2022 when the Padres made a big run, I think it'd be a nice reunion for the Padres. And again, as a rental piece, it's not going to cost you as much if he was under contract for long term or if he was younger. So from that particular standpoint, if the Royals decide to sell, I'd love to see the Padres interested in Seth Lugo. I'd love to see him back in the Padres uniform.
Absolutely, 100%. He pitched very, very well here on Sunday as well. So he still knows how to pitch here in this ballpark. I got 4 words for you for this next one. Osuna from the Braves.
Osuna from the Braves. Are you still going to be able to say that if the Padres acquired?
Well, yeah, because the from just changes meaning. You got him from the Braves, so he's still Osuna from the Braves.
The more Atlanta beats the New York Mets, the less likely they are to trade, I think, anybody at the deadline. Marcell Osuna's got a 25% chance of getting traded. The number one fit right now, according to ESPN, is the San Diego Padres because they need a DH. They need a DH. They need a right-handed hitting DH. If there's anyone that Atlanta might part ways with, though, it is Osuna. If you look at his contract, Marcell Osuna is a free agent at the end of the year. Again, you only have to pay 40% of the $16 million because 60% had been already paid for by the Atlanta Braves. Marcell Osuna, Padres uniform, I wouldn't mind seeing it again as a rental. Is there a situation in which the Braves still think they're contenders and yet trade Marcell Osuna in the final year of his deal?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think that's one of those, we're going to send him elsewhere and then go acquire other players to fit the role. I don't think they would do that. So the more Atlanta wins, the less likely he becomes available for the San Diego Padres.
Now, the next 2 players come in at 19 and 20 on this list of 50. They're both outfielders, and we're both guys we've talked about ad nauseum on this radio station. Luis Robert Jr. is a 90% chance of being traded, and Taylor Ward, who has a 45% chance of being traded, according to this at least.
And the Padres are listed as the number 1 team on both of these players. Now, I think both of these players, if acquired by the Padres, shouldn't be the only bat acquired by the Padres. I think they need Luis Robert Jr. and somebody else. I think they would need Taylor Ward and somebody else. Again, you have a righty, you have a lefty, power bats. Now, Luis Robert Jr. is not having a great year. He's having a mediocre year, if not a bad year. He has a lot of tools that can help out your ball club. He is fast. He steals bases. He's one of the leaders in stolen bases. He plays good defense in center field, but he'd be a left fielder here. So a decent center fielder move to left field would probably be a better left fielder. So from those standpoints, I honestly think it's worth the risk. Again, you don't have to pick up his $20 million option next year either. It'd be for a rental. But if the Padres went out and got a bat and they only got Luis Robert Jr., I'd be out. Now, that being said, Austin Slater has now come in to pinch hit for Luis Robert Jr. in the first inning. So he's either hurt or he might have been traded. Who knows at this point in time?
Well, we had that issue in Syracuse yesterday where Francisco Alvarez got taken out, but it was because of a heat thing. So I don't know what the temperature is in Chicago right now, but that could also be a factor in it as well. Currently, we're going to jump around the list, but we're going to stay in the outfield here. Number 26, outfielder from the Texas Rangers who has an 80% chance of being traded, Adolis Garcia. was not a name that I was expecting to hear get traded, but it appears as though he's got a pretty high chance of that happening.
With the Padres being listed as a potential option. Now, the Rangers are kind of incredibly disappointing. At the beginning of the year, I thought the Rangers were going to have a pretty good year. I honestly did. And I thought they would be able to win the West. I thought they'd be able to be in contention with the Red Sox. Red Sox, I think, have been a little disappointing as well. I mean, everybody and their brother picked the Red Sox to win the American League. And they are struggling. I mean, they might sell at the deadline. The Rangers are no different. Now, this year for Adolis Garcia, 232 average, 9 home runs, 96 OPS plus. He's good. He's got potential. He's not great. He's 32 years old at this point in his career. So he had that one big season for Texas. And now Adolis Garcia, he's making $9.2 million this year. He's arbitration eligible next year. So it'd be an outfield fit for maybe 2026 when he's 33, and then he's a free agent in 2027. You could kind of view this as a rental. I don't think you'd have to give too much up for him, but I don't necessarily know if Adolis Garcia is making a major impact for the San Diego Padres in 2025. We have a lot more of these we got to talk about, but if we have a little bit of a time after the Sports Fix, we'll get to it, or the Sports Thread, we'll get to it. And when and this is going to be a conversation for tomorrow too.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot available. And who knows what the latest news on Luis Robert Jr. is. Getting pulled from the game in the first inning could be something, could be nothing. Could be absolutely nothing. But now is the time where you start looking at dugout watch and all that stuff. This is still very early on, but very interesting to see that happen. Let's get to today's Sports Thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me.
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk. Number 1.
By the way, just before we get into this, heat is not a problem in Chicago. It's only 74 degrees at Rate Field today. So that takes that theory off the board.
That's hot for people in the United Kingdom.
Very true. The NCAA has recently been in the business of making bad decisions, and they're looking to continue that trend, with the only difference being that this story comes on the basketball side of things. The NCAA is close to a decision on expansion of the March Madness tournament from the current 68 teams to a 76-team field. There is a 72-team option that seems less likely. The NCAA is still in discussion with media partners about this expansion. Would an 8-team addition, which is the most since 1985, make the tournament more or less special?
Boo. It makes it
agree.
less special because they're going to get more power teams in it, and they're not going to give teams like UC Irvine or some of these mid-majors that are good enough to make the tournament that don't get to do it because they're in a one-bid league. If they're adding those teams, sure. If it's just to get mediocre to lousy power schools in the tournament, I'm totally against it. It's such a sham. I hate it. And even last year, TCU was like rumored as a bubble team. If they win a couple games, like if they had this implemented, they'd be close to making the tournament. TCU had no business making the NCAA tournament. Of all the games I watched, they had no business making the NCAA tournament. That would be a team that would make it in this expansion. Even if it's my school, I'm against it. Out. Terrible.
It's ridiculous. And for those of you who are going to be like, oh, well, it more of those bubble teams get in, and it kills the bubble conversation. No, it just pushes the bubble conversation back. Instead of complaining about 68, you're complaining about 77 now.
They already have the right amount of teams in basketball at the 68.
Absolutely. Next one.
Number 2.
This is our first of 2 team sales stories that we have here today, and we'll head north for this one to the Minnesota T-Wolves and the Minnesota Lynx, who have been sold as of yesterday. The teams were sold for a combined $1.5 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars to an investment group led by e-commerce entrepreneur Mark Lohr and former Seattle Mariner, Texas Ranger, and New York Yankee Alex Rodriguez. We've seen a lot of teams up for sale or being sold recently, including the Los Angeles Lakers last season. Should the fan bases of teams like the A's or the Pittsburgh Pirates try to help buyers capitalize on this seemingly growing trend?
What's the growing trend? What?
We talked about it ever since I've gotten on the show.
Athletes buying the teams?
No, just teams being sold in general. Like we've had about 5 or 6 sales just since I've joined the show in May.
I think you're about to see like 7 teams up for sale in Major League Baseball. I mean, I just, again, like buying a team in professional sports, like people that say it's not lucrative, they're nuts. It's very lucrative.
It is.
It's a long-term investment. It's a fun toy that appreciates in value. It's not like buying a yacht or buying a car where it's going to depreciate and cost you a ton of money. Yes, it is going to cost you money, but the investment is made for when you sell the team. That's where you make your money. It might not be all the ins and outs, although that being said, they probably do make off pretty well. So I can see it too. I mean, with the skyrocketing values for teams, it's almost, you get to a certain point, you don't run a team anymore, you can cash out and you've made billions of dollars, or your group has made billions of dollars. That's a successful investment.
Oh, absolutely. We'll go to the next one here.
Number 3.
Jumping around my list here, the second of the 2 team sales, the British Premier League has been shaken to its core by the circus that is on its way. Mid-table squad Crystal Palace, who won the FA Cup last year, was sold for $254 million, that's a million with an M, to New York Jets owner Woody Johnson. UEFA has yet to approve this sale, but it is not the first time that Woody Johnson has tried to purchase a Premier League side. Johnson attempted to purchase his favorite club, and mine as well, Chelsea, in 2022, but was denied, and thank Christ for that. Should Palace fans be excited for this ownership change? And Braden, please clearly explain why the answer is hell no.
It's the New York Jets. You want the circus of the New York Jets for your team? By the way, he bought the New York Jets. He could have just signed Xander Bogaerts and saved $30 more million. He's going to sign Xander Bogaerts. I can't believe you could buy a team for that little compared to everything else. $254 million is a lot. I would never want to have one of my teams be ran by a person that runs the New York Jets, who might be the biggest disaster. One of the biggest, not the biggest disaster. The biggest disaster in all of the NFL is the Arizona Cardinals. Second might be the New York Jets. So I don't know why you'd be excited about
Jacksonville
that.
up there also. That's another
Sean Khan
disaster waiting to happen.
Not great either.
I just thank you to UEFA so much for not letting him purchase Chelsea.
You'd have been in trouble.
I would have been in a lot of trouble. Next one.
Number 4.
The NFL has the distinction of being the only league of the Big Four to not fully guarantee their contracts, and the NFLPA, of course, is not happy about it. The NFLPA filed a grievance back in 2022 alleging the NFL was colluding to restrict and or limit fully guaranteed contracts to players. An independent arbiter ruled back in January that there was not enough evidence to support the Players Association's claim. The decision wasn't made public until yesterday on the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast. Is there a more viable avenue for the NFLPA to explore to get players the fully guaranteed contracts that they 1,000,000% deserve?
Like a different way besides suing the NFL?
Yes.
Getting a better Players Association?
Oh, that's
Their
always
Players
an
Association
option.
is not very good. That's why they have like the shortest stick in the group. Now, that being said, it's give and take here. I'm going to be in the middle. You can make a decision that you want. Do you want a league that's the most competitive league possible, or do you want a league that the players get the most possible? There's no both. You don't get both.
Mm-hmm.
So the non-guaranteed contracts, fully guaranteed contracts, gives you an opportunity to be a competitive league. Like if you didn't have guaranteed contracts in Major League Baseball, how many guys in the Padres would have got cut by now?
Yeah.
Probably a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, for everybody that's like upset about like Xander Bogaerts being on the team, I got to pay him all this money. And if you cut him, you got to pay him all the money. If there wasn't guaranteed money, they'd get to a certain point, he'd cut loose, and all of a sudden you'd be whatever. So to me, when you make these decisions, you're either, I want all the players in professional sports to get as much money as possible and have them run the league at the expense of me watching a competitive league, or I want a very competitive league. I don't really care how much money the players get. I'm probably trending more towards the league thing. I think all of these guys are well compensated. I think for a sport that's as brutal as football, there should be more guaranteed money.
Absolutely.
But I'm telling you right now, the NFL is the most competitive league out there, and it's because, unfortunately for the players, a lot of them get screwed because they have salary caps, they have salary floors, they have not their contracts or guaranteed money, and guess what? They have the most competitive league. This might be a topic of conversation for the next CBA for Major League Baseball. Not guaranteed contracts, but be ready for the salary cap, salary floor conversation.
Which should absolutely 100% come. All right, last one here.
Number 5.
A dynasty has officially come to an end at Duke University as redshirt senior center Stanley Borden has elected to transfer to the University of Texas San Antonio, the UTSA Roadrunners. Why is this such a big deal? Well, the 7-footer was the last player to play at Duke under Coach Krzyzewski.
Wow.
Borden was a walk-on at Duke and was best known for his viral saxophone performance during his sophomore year at a Midnight Madness type event. Sad to see the Coach K era officially come to an end at Duke.
I'm not a Duke fan, so I don't really care. The thing is,
for college basketball, that's a big thing.
It is, but like in this day and age of college basketball, with the transfer portal, with everybody has a brand new team like every year. Like Baylor from last year has no players back from last year's team. USD, I don't think has any players back from last year's team. It's a brand new team, so it's not overly surprising. If this was like professional sports, I think it'd be a little bit different because you could have players like under contract for like 10 years, right? It's the whole, like Ryan Zimmerman thing. Oh, he was the last player that was drafted by the Expos, or he was the first player drafted by the Nat, whatever. There's some of those mixed in. I don't think it's as big of a deal just because teams change over all the time. But if you're a Duke fan, I'm sure you shed a tear today. I don't really care about Duke.
And we just had a guy walk over here that can tell you all about how much of a circus Woody Johnson and the Jets are. Sam Levitt getting ready to go. And I believe, Braden, we've just hit the top of the hour.
We need to pause 10 seconds for station identifications. Braden Surprenant here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
KWFN and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
Tony Gwynn Jr. here. Come for the sports talk, stay for the antics. Keep up with Gwynn and Chris weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on 97.3 The Fan.
And Odyssey Sports Station.
The 11 o'clock hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by U.S. Wellness Meats. Overwhelmed by processed foods, U.S. Wellness Meats offers an all-natural alternative, 100% grass-fed beef, pork, poultry, wild-caught seafood, and more. Shipped free from family farms. Get 20% off your first order at uswellnessmeats.com. We are now in the lunchtime hour. Our lunchtime hour, that is usually longer on our daily show, is usually started with, have you been to Craft Taco yet?
No.
Okay. And now the bid is over. We'll try again tomorrow.
Well, by the way, we also did kind of leave a cliffhanger as far as the Luis Robert thing. News has come out that it's just a left hamstring strain. So no trade, possible injury for Luis Robert as to why he was taken out of today's game.
Anybody else think that was going to be something other than an injury?
No.
This noon lunch hour is brought to you by the Craft Taco. Both flavors at 2 locations, Sorrento Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. Got all the reads done, everything else. Getting ready to wrap things up. Crowd's rolling in nicely here at the Loft. A lot of people having a nice drink and hanging out. Rod and Nate are here checking out the show. Rod had a great day yesterday. He's having a great day today. It pays to be 97.3 The Fan's biggest fan.
Absolutely.
It pays to be that.
Well, was he the biggest fan yesterday? Because of, we had somebody watching on his fridge yesterday.
He wasn't. He's the biggest fan for the year, but he's not. Yesterday, the fridge, the watching the show on the fridge might be the biggest thing. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
I don't have the money for a smart fridge, but if I did, I'd have it tuned to 97 through the fan all the time. So if you do have a smart fridge, you can watch us on your smart fridge. Add that to the liners. Where's Adam? Adam needs to add that part to the liners. You know, you can listen wherever you get your podcast, but you can also watch the YouTube feed on your fridge. Apparently that's possible.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
And especially today with how good the pitching matchup is today. Mackenzie Gore, who's got the most strikeouts in baseball, going up against Nick Pivetta, who's been a very pleasant surprise for $1 million this year. Great pitching matchup today as well.
Frankie Watkins in the chat. So I left my fridge on while at work to increase the viewers. Hey, good call, Hey, good call. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Coming up next, Sam Levitt with the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show. Big pitching matchup today. As Frank mentioned, different lineup today. Sam, I'm sure we'll have more on the Padres lineup. Mike Schultz mixing some things up. We'll see you tomorrow on the Roundtable on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello, my friends. It is